Hi, and welcome to another virtual nutrition workshop offered by Community Services Unlimited as part of our Garden Gateway Healthy Home Gardening and Healthy Cooking class. Today we're going to be talking about chaya. Chaya is a beautiful, nutrient-dense, leafy green. It grows on a shrub that has many branches, and the leaf has an oak leaf type shape. Chaya is native to Central America and is believed to have originated on the Yucatan Peninsula. Its common name, chaya, is derived from the Mayan name chai. It is incredibly nutrient dense. It has more calcium than an orange, than a handful of spinach. It's incredibly high in iron, more potassium than eating a banana, and it has many of the enzymes required to construct proteins for your body. And so it's really a wonderful superfood that's very versatile and can be used in a lot of ways. It does also have a compound in it called hydrocyanic glycoside, and that has a mild toxicity. And so it does have to be cooked before you eat it in order to remove those toxins. If you eat it raw, the side effects could be nausea, diarrhea, stomach ache, and cramping. If you do some research online, some folks do say that in very small quantities you could eat it raw, but it's better just not to do it and avoid any potential side effects from that small toxicity that it has. But that's not unique to chaya. Other leafy greens and foods that we eat have some of this compound in it. Chaya just has a little bit more, and so we cook it. So today we're going to be featuring two recipes. One is agua de chaya, or a chaya agua fresca, a cold drink, really refreshing, super nutrient dense, great for these waning warm days of summer. And then the other dish that we're going to make is a sauteed chaya. Very simple. We're going to do it with a little onions and some salt and pepper, just so the chaya can stand out. But it's a really versatile green. You can put it in soups, sautés, anywhere where you would use spinach or kale or Swiss chard, you can use chaya. So we'll start out, because we're going to be putting it in a cold drink and because it has to be cooked before you can eat it, we're actually going to steam it briefly to help extract those toxins before we put it in the agua de chaya. And so we're going to go over how to wash it, but before we do that, I'm going to turn on my water to get it boiling so it's ready for steaming. Now we'll head over to the sinks to wash it. All right, the best way to wash any of your leafy greens is to do a simple triple wash. We started here, filled this dish, this basin, with cold water, and we've put the greens in there and are swishing them around. It's deep enough so that any dust or grit or dirt can drop and sink to the bottom of the basin, and then the greens float to the top. This is also something you can do by plugging up and filling your sink and then letting the greens float to the top. This is a good method for cleaning any kind of leafy green, kale, lettuce, spinach, any leafy green that you have, you can do. When I take it out of this water, what I actually want to do is scoop up the greens from the top and then move it into my second batch of water. And the reason I scoop it from the top and not dump the water is because I want to be sure that any sand, grit continues to fall and sink to the bottom, and that the leaves can float to the top. These basins are a little shallow. In your sink or at home, you could do them a little deeper, and of course the more greens you wash, the deeper the water needs to be. Again, I'm being sure not to squish or crunch the greens. I don't want to break up the greens or bruise them too much, but I am using my fingers to kind of agitate and move them around, again, so any dust or debris can come off and sink to the bottom. And then the third one, I'll pull it and drop it here. And what you should notice as you do this is, as you go through each basin, the water will be cleaner. If by the time you get to your third basin you find that you still have a lot of dirt, grit, or kind of dirt debris at the bottom of your bin, then you may want to go for a fourth wash. This can particularly be an issue for things like spinach that grow really close to the ground and oftentimes can get sand and grit kind of trapped in the leaves. So I'll now just take one of these bins and dump it out. I'm going to give it a little rinse so that anything is out of there. And then as my final, I'm going to pull these out and they're washed and ready to use. And then depending on how you were going to prepare your greens, you could now run it through a salad spinner or do whatever you need to do next. Okay, so now that we've washed our greens for the agua de chaya, we are going to steam them. And that is going to help remove the slight toxicity in them and get them ready to put in our drink. What I've got here is a pot on the stove. I've put just about 2 inches of water in there. I'm gonna drop in a couple big handfuls of this and cover it and let it steam for about 3 to 5 minutes. What you want to do is keep an eye on it, and when it has a really bright, vibrant green color, you know that it's been fully steamed, and then you can pull it off. Now, the leaf of the chaya, you can eat the entire leaf, and you can even eat the tender stem. Right here is the part where it was attached to the branch. If you want, you can kind of nip off that thicker bit at the end. We're going to show in a minute how to do a dish where you saute it. In that case, we actually did go through and remove the stems. That's a personal preference. I prefer to take the stems off when I saute it, just for mouth texture and the feeling. But in this case, since we're going to blend it, it's all going to be pulverized and it's not as much of an issue. But if you do have like really thick stem pieces at the end, you would break those off. But the more tender pieces at the base of the leaf, totally fine. It'll steam and blend up. All right, here are my bright green chaya leaves. They've steamed in this pot for about 5 minutes. I'm going to drop them right away into this cold water bath. I've got ice and water in this pot, and I'm going to drop them in here in order to stop the cooking. This way, when they go into the blender to make my drink, they are cold, and also they don't keep cooking and losing nutrients. So I'm just going to swish them around in here for a moment. You'll see your ice will melt from the cold water bath. And then I'm going to pull them up and put them in here. Now, from this stage, if you wanted to maybe make this later, you could store this in the refrigerator. You could also put this in the freezer. You could portion it out onto a cookie sheet in like little piles of maybe 3 or 4 leaves, and then pop it into your freezer, let those freeze, and then drop these little clusters of leaves into a big Ziploc bag. And then you could drop this into your morning smoothies. It'd be easy to grab and throw a few chaya leaves, getting all those nutrients, but they'd be taken care of in terms of being steamed and convenient to use. All right, so now we're gonna assemble the different ingredients for our agua de chaya. The first thing we'll go ahead and do is put in the chaya. I'm not going to use all of this for this batch, this small blender, but I've got a good 5 or 6. I'm going to break off this real big stem here. Five or 6 leaves. And now that they've steamed, I can kind of feel where the ones down here are more tender and these have stayed kind of thick. So I'll just break those, a few of those off. Okay, all right, I've got that in there. Whoop. I'm gonna put on, and then we're gonna use fruit juice really to add a nice brightness to it and some natural sweetness. And so I'm gonna put in about a cup of orange juice. Here I have about a half a cup I fresh juiced. So I take my orange, I'm gonna roll it on the countertop in order to kind of break up the membranes in there, soften it up and make it so I can get more juice out of it. Now, if you have a hand juicer or something you can use, that's a really great way to go about doing it. Another way, if you don't happen to have that tool in your kitchen, is you can just kind of cut off the end of your orange. I've opened it up there. This way your seeds are trapped deep down inside there. And then you can just give it a squeeze. Takes a minute to start loosening things up. Whoop. You can kind of juice your orange, working from the bottom, kind of working your way around it slowly, but you can see the juice just pours right out there. While most of your seeds, can't guarantee none of them will come out, but most of your seeds are kind of trapped up there in the center. You can take your time working through there. But this is something you can do with all citrus, and it's an alternative if you don't have a juicer. Sometimes if I don't have a juicer, kind of substitute for that equipment, I'll use a fork even and kind of put it in here and help kind of loosen up some of the juice. There, you can see it coming out. And if you have a little bit of the pith and stuff that comes out, that's fine. You could also peel your orange, get out your seeds, and just drop in your whole orange wedges, which is a great thing because you'll get, there's a lot of calcium and other nutrients in the skin and the pith of the citrus, and so you get that in your drink. In any case, we got about a cup of fresh squeezed orange juice right there. Now you can put in some other kind of fruits to sweeten it up and liven it up. In this case, we're putting in about 4 figs. We washed them, took out the stem bit, and we're gonna pour those in. It's about a cup. You could also put in some pineapple. You could put in apple. You just want something that's got like some brightness, some sweetness, a little acidity, help lighten up your drink. And then the last thing we're gonna put in is a little lemon juice. And I'm gonna do the same thing. Roll it on the counter to break up the membranes inside. And the same, I'm just gonna find that little nub there and I'm gonna cut that off. And then in this case, I'm just kind of doing it to taste and I'm gonna juice it right in there. And I'm gonna do it kind of over my hand so I can catch any seeds. Because with the lemon, the seeds are a little bit more spread throughout. But same, catching my seeds right there. And like we always do, we've got a little compost bucket handy. So it's quick to just drop that in there. You don't have to be running to the compost pail or to the garbage, and you can catch all your bits until the end when you clean up. Okay, so that's probably juice of about half a lemon that we put in there. Okay, I'm gonna put in about a cup of water and about 2 cups of ice. Pop it up here. Get my top on nice and tight. And I've got a little bit more water here. I can see how it, what it looks like, and I can add more water if I like. You can also add, if you like a little bit of sweetener, honey or agave would be a good alternative because it still has like other, high in other minerals and nutrients while bringing up the sweetness. But it's worthwhile to try it first without and see how you like it. All right, you want to run this for quite a bit of time. I ran it for even close to a minute because you want everything to get broken up. You don't want little chunks of your leaves in there, and you want the drink to be really integrated throughout. And then if you wanted, at this point, you could give it a taste. See if you wanted to add any additional fruit juice or any sweetener. You could pour it over ice or not, but there you are. Give that a little sip. Yeah, it's light, it's refreshing. I can taste that rich kind of green, nutrient-rich flavor from the chaya, but there's no bitterness. And the orange juice adds just enough natural sweetener. We didn't add actually any agave or any honey to this at all. So there you go, agua de chaya. Okay, so now we're gonna do the sauteed chaya. Like I said before, I went ahead and removed the stem from this. It's not necessary. It's really just a preference. So like with the agua de chaya, you might want to remove the end of a long stem if it's kind of thicker, but the tender bit that's right at the bottom of the leaf is fine to leave on. In my case, it's just like a preference in terms of mouthfeel and experience eating it. I like to remove it. But you could save it and use it in other ways, chop it up, put it in soup, things like that. Also, when you go to saute it, again, it's a preference. You could just leave it whole and saute it that way. Or you could kind of stack it and just rough chop it to break it up a little bit. Just like that, a quick cut through it, a quick cut through it. You still have a nice size leaf because it is going to shrink down, and so you don't want it to just turn into total mush. But if you just kind of cut it in half, it just can help break it up a little bit when you eat it. Again, it's not necessary, it's just a preference for how you want to experience it when you eat it. So now we're going to go ahead and take this over to the skillet. So I'm doing this in a cast iron skillet. You don't want to cook it in aluminum. Again, the natural enzymes in the chaya can have a little reaction with the aluminum. So best to do it in some kind of iron, enameled, or some other kind of skillet, stainless steel, but not aluminum. In this case, you can do it super simple or as interesting as you like. I'm just going to do a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I'm dropping that into a hot pan. I sliced up some red onion. You can do onion, garlic, again, whatever you like. It's just a matter of taste and preference. You could also just do it plain. Turn down this heat a little bit. I'm just going to saute that for a moment. In this particular dish, I'm just going to saute it till they get a little translucent. And then I'm going to drop in my chaya. It has a little bit of moisture on there. You could spin and dry them, but there's not enough of it to be a hazard in terms of your oil popping. Just leave that to cook, and then after a moment I'll turn it over and let it evenly saute. It is hard to find commercially, like grocery stores and things like that, but it's very easy to grow. We grow it on our farm over at the Expo Center, and we regularly share cuttings of it with participants in the Garden Gateway program. All right, so here is our finished dish. I realized that I actually forgot to salt and pepper it while I was cooking it. But while it's sauteing, you should add salt and pepper to taste. And actually the salt, if you add it earlier on when you're sauteing, it helps to tenderize the greens as they cook. But here they are. And you could just eat them with a fork as a side dish like you would other sauteed greens. So these are great. They have, again, a mild flavor. No bitterness, just nice and tender. The onion comes through, really simple. And then again, our agua de chaya. Thank you so much for watching our video on chaya, learning how to cook it with us. If you're interested in participating in Community Services Unlimited's Garden Gateway program, please visit our website, csuinc.org, and under programs, check out Garden Gateway. You can register for the program, and every month you'll get an update on the different offerings that we're doing. Right now we're continuing to do virtual gardening and healthy cooking workshops, and if you're local in South Central, you can RSVP to come pick up free materials so you can try out what you're learning from the videos at home. So visit us at csuinc.org or check us out on Instagram at csuinc. And please check out our YouTube channel for other workshops and cooking demonstrations. Thank you so much. Happy cooking.